All right, thanks for downloading the template. I'm going to take you through the layers and how you can customize this template to fit your needs. We'll start off at the bottom and we'll work our way up, and I'll kind of go out of order of how these are stacked in here, and I'll show you why later. But the main one I start at the bottom is just the background color. If you double click on that smart object, you can open this up. I do have a couple just basic colors in here, so the navy, black, white. So if you need it navy, you can just flip that on. If you need to get your custom color, just double click here and then double click on the gradient, and then you click on this thing right here, and then you can dial in which colors you want. What I typically do is, if I'm pulling from a logo, I'll sample that color, and then I can grab that. And so if that was our color, and then I'd sample it again over here, and then I just pull down the darkness so I get the gradient. If you want a flat color, that's up to you. It's your design. So we'll cancel out of that. For this one, we are doing a black. So Command S or File Save to save this layer. And marching up, we have this triangle here. It's just this little gradient at the bottom of the image. Little shadow kind of look. If you don't like it, turn it off. And then I'm going to circle back down to these other things. I'll kind of show you the order I change things out. First, I start with the logo. So if you click on that and then double click, it is a smart object. Another idea, instead of putting a logo here, you can put their jersey number or any other things you want, but I have this labeled logo. So I'm going to drop in the logo of this team. Get rid of that one, save it. And this will update back here. We'll just leave it there for now. The next thing I will do is I will put their first and last name here. So this is Aiden Jones. And don't worry about this right now, we'll straighten it out later. If you want to change the text color, obviously, by selecting this, you can change the text color. Next, fits their last name. And so we'll double click on this. This is also a smart object. I'm a big Tungsten fan. It is a paid font. Most of my templates have Tungsten in it if you've already downloaded one before. So I'm gonna roll with that because that's my font of choice. If you don't want to buy it you can use any font you want. I also have this font up here. It's an Adobe font, so if it's not registering, you should be able to download it for free. The main thing with the last name is it's got to fit in this square or this rectangle. If it goes past it, it's going to go off your page over here. So that's kind of the window you're working with. So if it was a name that was too long, so we'll just add some A's here. This is too long. So what I do is I just shrink this down until it fits in what would be vertically on here. And then if you hit Command A, and then if you have your select tool up here, you can line it to the bottom. It's important that this is lined up right on this edge because that's kind of cutting the face in half. But we don't need that because this name's short enough. So I'm gonna undo those changes and we'll save that. And we'll head back. This also has all these effects on this. If you just want plain text, by all means type it in and do you, but this is kind of the look I have on this text, and it's all these over here, and if you need to adjust them, you can go through the filters over here. So we'll save that. Brings us back here. So we have the name in, the logo in, and now we need to drop the pictures in. I usually start with this back photo. You can double click on the smart object here and open it up, and I have this silhouette in here. I'll drop in the photo back here. And from doing these, I kind of know, like a football player has the wide shoulder pads, so they have to be a little bit smaller. But typically what I try to do is get down to like the waist or the bottom of the arms if you have arms crossed. And that typically works best. Once you get your template done with your team and how you shot, what I'd recommend doing is if you hit Command and then semicolon, you can drag this around like to the bottom of the chin so that you know that they're the same size. But since I'm just making this one for you, I'll leave it as it is. And then I do have this line in here. This line right here is the center of where their face is being split. So if you're going for the half face split, this is a good way to line it up. If you're going for the look where it's like maybe a partial face, which I think I'm gonna do on this one, I'll just go right off to the side of the eye right there. I'll save that, we'll see how that looks. And then I'll keep that open so if we wanna come back to it. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And as you can see, we're gonna have to change the logo and name around, but once you get that down, we'll just be moving it later. So let's get all the other pictures in. Other thing to add is this background color on top, it's a color, it's on set to color up here. So if this was blue, it'd make her, if your background was blue or green, it would make this image that color. If you don't want that, just click this off. And I think for this one, I want the color on there. So we can always add it back later, but I'm just gonna flip it off for now. All right, next we have this side image. On this one, there's two ways you can do it. You can open this smart object and command semicolon again. And I drew these lines in where kind of where the line, the middle line is, and kind of where the bottom of the circle and the top of the circle are to give you some bearings on where you're placing your image. But I think it's unnecessary to do this, and I can show you a little faster way to do it. Is click on this image and then bring in the image that you want on top of it and place it where you want. And then all you have to do is, and I'm sorry, I don't know all the PC short cuts, but I'm sure you've heard tutorials before and you can change them. But Option, if you hold down Option and click on this layer mask, you can just drag it up to this one. And if you want to pull the smart filter up on it too, just hold down Option and let go on it and it'll update it, as long as this is a smart object that you dropped in there. If not, you can right click and convert to smart object over here. All right, so you can flip that off. And so now you can see that's in there. This camera raw filter I have on there, it just has some clarity and some shadow boost that works with the images how I shot them. So once you get your images dialed in, if you double click on that, you can dial in your settings. And so every image you bring in, you can copy that on there and it'll save you a few steps. So you can try the one I have. If it doesn't work with your images, tweak it to your liking, and then you'll have it saved. So for the next template, you can just keep, or the next person, you can just keep dropping and dragging and dropping. All right, so now we have those two images in. We're gonna do this front image. And same thing, there's no reason to drop it in there because there's just the smart filter on it. So I'm gonna pull in this image that's cut out, and I'm gonna kind of line it up here. And so then I'll get rid of, drag this smart filter onto it, and you can see it's a subtle change, but it makes the image pop a little bit. All right, that looks pretty good right there. I typically try to go for the head right underneath the chin so that they're not overlapping, but it's kind of a rule of thumb. All right, the next thing I'm gonna do is these circles. I have them labeled ring, which is this outside ring, and circle, and they're independent of each other, and I did that on purpose. Most of the time I keep it the same, and I use, we'll start with circle. Double click on it, open this up. And I have all the colors in here that I use, but I typically use silver and gold the most. I think it's just a cool look in the background. And you probably can see on a lot of my templates that I have the gold and silver, but for this one, I'm gonna show you how to do two different colors on this. So I'm gonna go with the white gradient here. I'll save that. And you can see it update out there. And then now we need to do this ring. And I think what I'm gonna do for the ring is I'm gonna make it the red of the logo. So I'm gonna hit I on the keyboard, brings up the eyedropper, and I'm sampling this red color. And then I'm gonna go back down to ring. I'm gonna double click here, and it opens this up. And all I'm gonna do is just fill this square in with the red color. And if it doesn't come up, you can double click on your properties panel and fill it in. And then you just hold down Option and clip it to this layer down here, and that's giving you that ring. So you can obviously do the same thing as earlier, like I described, double click on this and change the color out there, but I just decided to do a solid one on this instead of a gradient. So that's saved, and you can kind of see the difference between the two and what you have there. So that looks pretty good right there. The last thing you'll do, and again, you have to do these basically one time per team because they'll stay, is I had this at the very top, this lens flare. You can flip it off if you don't like it. Right now it's kind of gold color. What works a lot with a lot of teams, you can desaturate it. If you click the down arrow up here, open up the hue saturation on the smart filter. Well, sorry, you have to unlock it first, so that'll probably catch some people too. Double click that, and if you desaturate all the way, it gives you the silver, which I use a lot. But also if you click on color eyes, you can change the color to any of the team color. So like red, for instance, for this team. So I think that looks good. It gives it a little color. So we'll save that. I'll lock that back just so whenever I'm grabbing layers, it doesn't grab it. And there's another one down here, background lens, and you can kind of see it just behind the whole thing. I think the silver or white on that looks pretty good. So I'm gonna leave that. Now let's adjust this logo and name. And this is probably a pretty good example so that we can show you how to move these. So I think I'm gonna make this a little bigger. Look at that. You'll set that, and now the name is behind. And so all we have to do is if you bring your mouse cursor close till you see the arrow like this, you click there, it'll open up this whole square, and then you go down there a little bit and you just rotate this to where it looks good. And it can, if it does get off like this, if the curve gets off a little bit, just set it, and then you can adjust the wording like that. So that looks pretty good how it is. Some people like to put the name there because as this gets covered up, people get sensitive about not seeing the whole name. So this is a way to incorporate the whole name. If you can also put their position, senior, school name right here, it's all just kind of a good opportunity to put some extra text in right there. If people don't like the name covered, or you don't, obviously that's an easy fix. You can go with this, and I do that quite a bit too. So you just have the half or the two photos in it. So the last thing you would have to do is down here under the grain layer, there's a shadow. So you just make a new layer. We'll delete that one out. We'll zoom in and we'll add our shadows. And there you have it, the finished product there. All you have to do is save as a JPEG and then send off to your printer or post on your social media, and you have yourself a senior poster. This also has a 2x4 size if that fits more your needs of what you print on posters. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks.